Hi everybody, today we're going to look at top and tail operation. So top and tail refers to having a locomotive at both ends of the train, in this case passenger train with 9, 10 or 11 carriages top and tailing. So we can look at how to prepare the train at the start of the day, how to safely get it out the shed into the platform with the locomotive on both ends of the train, how to operate the train, a few differences between the buzzer system and how to clear the points, things like that, and how to isolate the locomotives depending on which end of the train is leading. So you'll see in the video. So as we said, top and tailing refers to having a locomotive at both ends of the train. Usually the leading locomotive will obviously be powering and also have control of the brakes. The rear locomotive will be in neutral with the handbrake off and the brake control isolated on that locomotive to allow the leading locomotive to control the brakes on all the coaches and also the rear locomotive at the same time. The guard should travel in the rear guard's van, and also you should note that the buzzer unit should not be connected between two locomotives, so through the whole train with both locos connected to the buzzer unit at once. It's likely to blow the fuse on the buzzer unit and then the buzzer won't work at all. So for clearing sections, either use the radio on channel 2 if you're not obviously operating on channel 1 radio control, or use green flags, and obviously the driver will be looking at the appropriate points to see your green flag signal. So we'll see how to do the isolation on the air brake control on Rennie and Bayhurst, which is very easy. Also, we'll now show you my glamour assistant Phil. Here he is. We'll show you how to isolate the brakes on Graham Alexander. So you need to go to the rear of the engine compartment, and just here at the back you have the isolation cock there. So currently it's in normal operation in line with the pipe, and if Phil just isolates it for us, we'll show you how easy it is. So there we go. So that's the locomotive isolated on Graham, and obviously the air brake in the front of the loco now you would release, and the locomotive is then ready to be controlled by another locomotive. The brakes will still work on the locomotive, it turns into a coach effectively, so the brakes just being controlled from another locomotive. The brakes are not being isolated, they're just being controlled from a different location other than the actual driving cab of this loco, if that makes sense. And now Lady of the Lakes. So for this one, we go to the small compartment in the back of the locomotive here, which Phil's just removed, and just inside, nice and easy to get to. We've got the handle there. Again, it's currently in line with the pipe. Phil's just isolated it there, and we then go to the cab and release the driver's brake valve into release, and then this locomotive again, the brakes are now able to be controlled from another locomotive as we require for top. So the first option for getting the train out is to put the train on the platform as normal, and then take the second locomotive over the crossover and back it onto the other end of the train, which we're just seeing Phil complete now. So we've now coupled the locomotive up onto the back of the train in the normal way. Phil's turned the locomotive off, and he's now going to isolate the control on the brakes on this loco to allow the leading loco, which is Bayhurst, to take control of the train. So the isolation cock on here is just under the driver's desk. And then once Phil has put the isolation cock across the pipe, he's going to release the air brake like that, and then this locomotive now is being controlled. The brakes of this loco are being controlled as part of the whole train, along with all the coaches from the leading locomotive. So we've now isolated the rear locomotive, as we just saw. Phil has gone back to the leading loco, which is Bayhurst, around the corner there in the platform. And as it's the start of the day, the train's just been formed up. We need to do a brake test, so we're going to do a brake test now using the rearmost air cock on the train, which is here on the front of the loco. So here we go. That's it, it's a test brake test, and we're good to go. The second option for forming the train at the start of the day, so we've got Bayhurst and 9 coaches here sitting on the down line at the limiter shunt board as we normally would. Here's the down crossover, and the second loco is here, John Rennie, just coming out of the shed now, and we'll bring it onto the back of the train, couple it up, and then we'll go from there in a moment. Just to recap, so we've pulled Bayhurst and 9 coaches out of the shed as we normally would. We've gone to the limiter shunt board and we've stopped the train. John Rennie, as you just saw, is now on the rear of the train and coupled up as normal. So we're now going to drive the train to the platform using John Rennie at the other end of the train. This is due to, if you're trying to propel the train with the loco here, Bayhurst, pushing through 9, 10, 11 coaches, however many, plus a locomotive on the back. Obviously there's a lot of weight there going up around the sharp curve in Woody Bay, so it's a bit more risky for potential derailment. So it's safer here to isolate Bayhurst now as the rear locomotive and use John Rennie as the leading loco to pull the set into the platform and then stop in normal position, and we can then go from there. So now we're going to isolate Bayhurst and pull the set into the platform with John Rennie. Now in Woody Bay platform, we've driven the train in using John Rennie at the back there. So now we are obviously going to prepare for normal departure, and Bayhurst will then become the leading locomotive once again. So Phil is going to isolate John Rennie at the back of the train, cut the brakes out there, and obviously Bayhurst, having just been dragged into the platform, we're going to reinstate the brakes by putting the brake handle back to emergency and then using the cutout here back in line with the pipe. And Bayhurst is now reinstated. Phil will do the opposite at the back with John Rennie. He will use the cutout valve across the pipe under the desk and then release his air brake, and then Bayhurst now has control of the train again as the leading loco, ready for a normal departure. We've isolated John Rennie at the back of the train, and Bayhurst now has control of the brakes on the train once again as the leading locomotive. So we're going to do a normal departure from Woody Bay, obviously depending on which mode of operation we're using, tokens, radio, etc. So give the driver the green flag and off we go. Right, we've now reached our end of the journey, in this case Haste Hill, due to the building work at Willow Lawn on the new platform. So the leading loco, Bayhurst, the driver Phil, has turned it off first of all, and obviously stopped the train. The brake handle there is an emergency. So this is now going to become the rear locomotive on the train, and John Rennie at the other end will be leading. Therefore we want to isolate the brakes, the brake control from this locomotive. So to do that, Phil is obviously going to use the cock under the desk, which you can probably just about see here, there we go, and then release the air brake, make sure the locomotive is in neutral and the handbrake's off, and we're all good to go. We've now isolated Bayhurst at the back, as we just saw, so the driver has returned to what is now the leading locomotive, and he's going to reinstate the air brake there by putting the handle back to emergency and then putting the cock under the desk in line with the pipe. And when you're ready, we can obviously depart back to Woody Bay. So there we go, we've now arrived back at Woody Bay. So if you were going to dispose the train, you have again 2 options, pretty much the same as the 2 options to get the train out, just in reverse. So we can go a normal departure up to the limiter shunt board and then detach the rear locomotive and drive it into the workshop or PUA shed as appropriate. Or we can uncouple the rear locomotive here in the platform and drive it over the crossover and back into the workshop or PUA shed, and then dispose of the train, just 9 coaches plus locomotive in the normal way. Whatever's easy on the day, both options are fine to use.